Welcome to r/RedditRevenge. This is a story of someone getting back at someone with revenge after being wronged. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. Jack A. Manager tries to take credit for my project and program and shows it off to the board of directors meeting without me. The second story. Manager paid me a very small amount of money and he received much more, so I decided to punish him. The third story. I quit my job because the manager always made remarks to me that were not true. Today's first story is, Darth Vader appears in my company's boardroom and enacts karma revenge. I currently work in the healthcare insurance industry that deals with benefits, eligibility, pension, dental, vision, etc. My job is technically jack of all trades, but I occasionally am loaned out to help other departments with projects that include programming. This is one such occasion. About 3 years ago, I get tasked with a huge project to make our healthcare forms submittable from online. The task is simple enough. Use the existing PDF forms and create submittable text fields. It's a multi-step project that requires client usage via PDFs, claim adjuster application, database checks, and balances. All 3 systems need lots of functionality and client security, which means lots and lots of testing. Due to HIPAA regulations, I'm forbidden from using actual client membership information, so we have fake names in place, like John Doe and Jane Doe, etc. I've created a new fake database for the purpose of this project on a separate system. Important later. I end up finishing well before I'm supposed to, and I spend the next few weeks fully testing my system. The only way to challenge the variables, aka restrictions, is to think outside the box. Example, we can't have the client saying he has 4 kids on one form, but claims he has 0 kids on the other because he checked the wrong box. I start to create background stories for my fake families and kids, but this is becoming troublesome because I forget which fake name has what family, kid, and illness, etc. I then resort to using characters from movies because it's easier to remember. This leads me to create a full health and history for Darth Vader in our modern-day healthcare system. Full name, Anakin Skywalker, alias Darth Vader. SSN 123456789. Address 2 Death Star Way, Apartment 1138. City, Tatooine. State, California. Zip 90210. Gender, male. Height, 6'1". Weight, 184 pounds. HMO plan, Kaiser Permanente. DOB 05-25-1977. Medical history, amputee, prosthetic left arm, amputee, prosthetic left leg, respirator, requires a CPAP, annual checkup with deductible. Spouse, wife, Padme Amidala. Female, deceased. Dependents, Luke Skywalker, male, 05-19-1999. Leia Organa, female, 05-19-1999. I'm creating and submitting all the various healthcare-related forms as Anakin Skywalker and using his history as reference material. Because this is for my eyes only, so I get to have nerd fun while doing my job. Win-win deal. Soon I'm showing my progress to my supervisor while it's connected to the live production database, not test database. During my presentation, another manager observes what I've done so far, as he's part of the online department. This manager, who I'll call Jack A from here on out, has been known to weasel in on projects and steal other people's ideas. Nobody likes him, but he's got tenure, so he can't be touched. I personally don't care if Jack A is observing the progress update, because I've never experienced any of the negative gossip about him. Little did I know he had ideas of his own. I finished my progress update, and I'm pretty much done with Phase 2. I don't bother changing the database from live production back to the Anakin test system I had been using. It's during the next few days that Jack A opens up the claims adjuster side of the program I helped make. Because it's connected to live production, he starts familiarizing himself with everything. He then requests for some time during the next board of directors meeting the following Monday so that he can show off his next project. Friday comes around and I realize I have to update something on my project, and I swap back to the test database so I don't forget over the weekend. My project isn't due for 3 more weeks, so I wrap things up and head home. I come in Monday afternoon because of a doctor's appointment, and as soon as I walk in, I'm immediately cornered by my supervisor with this look of horror and mild amusement on his face. Soup. Drider, did you sabotage Jack A's presentation today on purpose? Me. Huh? What? Who? I'm totally clueless as to what's going on. What are you talking about? What presentation? By this point, 2 more colleagues had overheard and have quickly joined, both snickering and laughing quietly. Soup. So you didn't change the project you're working on back to the test database on purpose? Me. Huh? Well, I did, yeah. Last Friday. I had to make some changes to it last minute. Wait, what do you mean on purpose? Why? What happened? My supervisor and coworkers start laughing out loud, and I'm left puzzled as to what's going on. Then they tell me what happened. Jack A had walked into the board of directors meeting with the purpose of manipulating his words to take design and managerial credit for my project. He talked about the progress he/we made, the process he/we used to make it work. As a demonstration, he fired up the claims adjuster application that was supposed to be connected to the live production database. Instead, 30-plus white-haired executives were shown the Anakin test database with fake names and fake information. Not only that, but the above Anakin Skywalker screen was the first to be shown on the projector. The 65-plus-year-old executives in suits and ties started chuckling, and soon everyone caught on to the joke, as the snickers turned into laughter. Jack A was none the wiser because he wasn't looking behind him. Soon everyone had either caught on or figured it out from the person next to them, and everyone doubled over in laughter. The details I had created on this fake client was pretty funny in the context of our healthcare service system, which is why it was funnier than it should have been. The presentation was a laughingstock, and Jack A had no idea how to switch databases to the live one, making him seem incompetent. Word spread to all the upper management and trickled down to the staff. Soon the truth came out and he openly blamed me for setting him up. He claims I knew he was going to be presenting the project to the board, news to my supervisor and I, and that I did it to make him look like a fool. Didn't need any help from me, apparently. While he never openly claimed that it was his work, he implied he had a heavy hand in the process. He steered clear of me from that point forward and was denied a sideways promotion later on that year. Many believe it was because of the incident. Thanks, Lord Vader. May the petty vengeance be with me. The next story is, don't want to pay me what I'm worth and pay me months late consistently? Have fun losing your biggest client. I'm an independent contractor in a creative and artistic field. I run my own business and have for over a decade now. 8 years ago, a friend of a friend recommended me to someone who basically does what I do, but also hires out other creatives to his clients. Let's call him Kevin. I submitted a sample of my work and he put me in his database. I landed a job through him for a very, very large corporation. A very well-known, excellent company. Of course, I was super thankful. I went on my first few jobs, which took place at the big company's local offices. It was fun. They were great. Kevin was the one who would submit the invoice. Big company paid him, then he paid me. However, I immediately noticed that I was getting paid like 3, 4, and sometimes 5 months later. I would inquire to Kevin and he blamed the big company. I took his word for it, but it was really annoying and it disrupted cash flow for me quite a bit. I couldn't say anything to big company because technically they weren't my client. They were his client, and it's unprofessional. After a few sessions, he stopped arranging the schedule and left that to be between myself and big company. Fine, no biggie. Actually easier that way. I knew he was being paid for each of my sessions. I made $100 per working hour. I assumed he made maybe like $25 or $50, considering he wasn't even coordinating the sessions and literally didn't even know when they were occurring. He literally did nothing but invoice them. I'd send him session sheets afterwards so he could send invoices. He hardly ever responded. In order to get paid, I'd have to email him several times. It took up to 5 months to send me a check sometimes. One time, I had threatened to not attend sessions anymore because things were getting so bad. He promptly replied and paid me. I dealt with this for years. One day, someone from big company forwarded me an email chain that had some info on it that I wasn't supposed to see. I found out that for every 1 hour I worked, Kevin made $200 and I made $100. This peeved me off so bad. Here I was doing all the work, even coordinating the sessions, and he was literally contributing nothing other than to sit back and not pay me on time. I found out many times that company actually did pay him, and he would delay sending me my cut by months. Fast forward to the pandemic. In 2020, I could no longer go into big company because of lockdowns. I could still work for them, but like everyone else, I had to work from home and we'd use Zoom. But this meant I had to use my own studio, as well as my own very expensive equipment. This is what I do with most clients, and I usually charge more. So I reached out to Kevin and asked him if I could at least get paid $150 per hour instead of $100, considering I was now using my resources, which are expensive. He replied that it just wasn't in the budget. Sorry. He didn't know that I knew he was making $200 for every $100 I made, while he didn't do a D thing except pay me late. And now I'm using my resources. He always spoke to me like I was some little kid, like I'm getting paid to mow his lawn or something. Very patronizing. Like I'm a Girl Scout selling cookies. I don't know, it was weird. Next Zoom session with my client, project manager Scott and I have a discussion about Kevin. I tell him the issues I've had. I never spoke with this client about the issues before because it's unprofessional to speak with the end client about money matters, but this had gone too far. They said they'd received similar complaints from other creatives. They offered me a direct contract. We negotiated and I asked for $200 an hour. This saved them $100, and I made $100 more. Remember, they were originally paying $300 an hour, $100 for me, $200 for worthless Kevin. It was a win-win. Since Kevin never had me sign a contract, there were no legal issues in doing this. We didn't tell Kevin, and I officially began working directly with them. Every single creative followed suit. Kevin thought they didn't have work coming in. Kevin lost the contract with this enormous company. When he came in to pick up some things at Big Company, he saw my name on a session sheet. He was like, "You have a collaborative project meeting with XXX today?" She didn't tell me. They broke the news to him and told him all of his creative partners are now working directly with Big Company. I asked Scott what Kevin's reaction was. He said he just stood there with a very confused, shocked look on his face. There was an awkward 10 seconds of silence, and then he just walked out. In the meantime, I'm making way more money. I get paid on time, imagine that, and my workload is increased. I had my best year financially in 2021. Kevin lost because of greed. The last story is, constantly talk down to me and berate me about my productivity? See what that gets you. I used to work overnights for a place that quite possibly rhymes with Hallmark. It was distinctly unpleasant. Working at night and sleeping during the day was bad enough, and I could write a small book on why working for this company sucked. You were given too much to do, then sent to another department to help, and then written up for not finishing your work. The managers were hopelessly out of touch with reality. Everything was tracked by an error-prone computer system. We lost at least 4 workers a month because they hated it. The pay was low. But the worst part was the managers. One was okay. He was basically just a soulless husk in a suit. But the other one, who I'll call Angry Adam, was a jerk. He constantly talked down to workers, while the night supervisor snickered by his side. I learned to dread working with him. Our night shift was so desperate for help and so horrifically understaffed that I was the only person assigned to the dairy department. I had no formal training at all. There were supposed to be a minimum of 3 working the department every single night. Occasionally, a new hire would be sent back to help, but they always quit within a week, and I can't say I blame them. Thus, it was impossible for me to finish any of my work, and Angry Adam always made snide remarks about how slow I was. It was demoralizing as heck, but it put food on the table, so I had to put up with it. What was odd, though, was that my coworkers assured me that I was doing a really good job. It was just impossible to run the department by yourself. To top it all off, I had a really hard time sleeping during the day. I basically just popped Benadryl in hopes of catching 3 or 4 hours of sleep after work. When the weekend finally came, I slept it all away, only to force myself to stay awake for work the following night. It took a big toll on my mental health, and even some of my friendships. I just was never awake when my friends were. One night, Angry Adam was especially bad. He stopped me every half hour to tell me how crappy the dairy department looked, and how I needed to pick up the pace. At one point, I was walking by out back on the way to break when I heard Angry Adam say, "I don't like seeing people go off on break when they haven't worked hard enough to deserve it, if you know what I mean." The night supervisor snickered. When I turned and looked, they were both sneering at me. My fists were clenched in rage when I started my break. I stayed half an hour late to finish my work. Angry Adam paged me to personnel before I could punch out and crawl into bed. He said that there was a large load of dairy freight coming in the following night, 17 hours of freight, not to mention the 2 hours of overstock, and that I really needed to find a way to pick up the pace. His words, because there was no one else scheduled in that department for the next 2 days. He ended our little chat by insinuating that he would coach me for my poor speed if I didn't get the cooler cleared out by the end of my shift. Basically, he was saying finish all 17 hours of freight in your 8-hour shift, or else I'll make sure you're formally in trouble with the company. I assured him that I would pick up the pace, and that the cooler would be cleared out by the end of my shift the following day. I never went back. I hope you love these stories. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to know when the new videos come out.